we have implemented a multi-vendor contract management system for the KfW. And I'm giving you a deep dive today, what we have done, what was our challenges, and what are the key success factors for you if you have the same challenges like we. But before I want to start, I want to ask you a short question. So who of you in the room already have a contract management in place? Maybe keep your hands up. Okay, some. And who in the room have challenges in the area of managing contracts and have transparency about the contracts? Okay, good. So then you are in the same situation like we before we kicked off the project. The agenda for today's session, I give you a short overview about the KfW group. For those of you who don't know us, telling you about something about the challenges and what was the project target. The project delivery, so how we have done it and what we're planning to do next, because we are not at the end. Lessons learned and success factors, and a summary, and give you some takeaways if you challenging the same situation like we and want to do something to make it better. So KfW Group, we are a bank. We are a promotional bank of Federal Republic of Germany. So we are established in 1984 as Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau. And our shareholders we have two shareholders only. It's the Federal Republic of Germany and it's the Federal States of Germany. Our headquarters in Frankfurt in Germany, and we have branches in Germany in Berlin, in Bonn and Cologne. But we are also international, so we have an international branch, and we have 80 offices around the world, also here in London. Our balance sheet for 2014 in total, we have roughly 490 billion euros. Our financing volume, roughly 75 billion euros. So just to get that, you get an overview about the financing side. We have worldwide 5,500 employees, and we have the best long-term rating for Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and all this stuff. It's AAA. So KfW Group, so we are a group of 3 banks. Yeah? We have the KfW itself, which is responsible for the domestic promotion in Germany. We have our international brand, which is the ePEX Bank. The ePEX Bank is working internationally and doing expert and project finance. And last but not least, we have our development bank, which is the DEG. And the DEG is responsible for promotion of the emerging markets, more or less. Challenges. So what was the situation before we kicked off the project, or why we kicked off the project? We have a lack of transparency in the area of contract management. We have roughly 1,600 contracts with different vendors in place, and we have absolutely no clue what is the utilization of these contracts. Do we have already exceeded the contract volume, or do we don't use the contract at all? So if we ask our procurement department, give me the actual figures, it's a high amount of manual effort they have to put in. It takes weeks to get the right figures. And this was the main challenge for us. We have one scenario where we missed the lead time for extension tenders. So if you can imagine, we need EU tenders. Takes roughly 5 to 6 months. Yeah, and if you don't start early with this process, you have a problem, because you have to extend maybe the contract and you don't have the final tender in place and it's still running. We have no link between the operational data and the contracts. We have nothing. And we have no overview about youth skill mix, seniority, and also the average daily rate if we are talking about service contracts. As bank, we have roughly 80% of our spend is going into services. Yeah? And that's the reason why we decided to implement a contract lifecycle management system and start with our main commodity code, which is consulting services. What were the main requirements from our functional departments for doing it? The main point, our procurement leader coming to me and said, well, we want a transparent, easy to use and flexible process. Please don't implement another complex SAP process. We have a lot of them. We don't want the same here again. Okay? So one of the main requirements is to easy, flexible process and very flexible and easy to handle user interface for our procurement stuff. We have a lot of different contract types. We have frame, we have single, we have call-offs, and all this must be supported by one solution, not different solutions. Easy rules. So if you're creating a contract, if you're changing a contract, don't have to ask millions of people in the bank, implementing easy rules to get this in place and to get this done fast. Contract hierarchies, so we have quite complex structure. We have panel contracts, and we have a lot of different subcontracts which should be assigned, or it should be possible to assign to these contracts. And also it should be possible to reconnect these subcontracts to other contracts quite flexible. And we have our own call-off logic. So maybe the standard systems bringing some calculation logic, but for us it was not possible. We have our own call-off logic. I will tell something about later. And we should migrate the contracts we have created in 2015 and also migrate all the purchase orders to these contracts in the same process. And higher up the transparency for all the different groups of people who are interested in this data, especially also the regulatory authorities. So regarding the contract hierarchy, contract hierarchies can be defined in our scenario as value or else volume, means person days on the one hand or currency value on the other side. The release value should calculate automatically. One of the main challenges was that the requirement is that different vendors can be assigned to one contract, which was quite challenging, but I come to this point later on. Subcontracts, like I already mentioned, the subcontract gets automatically created from the base contract with all the necessary data. Should be not more possible to do call-offs against contracts which are already utilized completely. Yeah, so that means we have some really hard stop in the system that call-offs against a full use contract should not more possible. And only released contracts can be decreased by the value. Our call-off process, which we implemented by ourselves, the complex part is this part here in the middle. If you have a purchase order, you know we have a long process of approval. Yeah, you can always place the PO, then you have several steps in the approval, and at the end someone can say no, yeah, and then you have to roll back everything. And if you have a calculation against the contract, you can imagine what does that mean. So that means we have a safety principle in our calculation, which means if you place initial order, we block the value or the volume immediately in the contract. Yeah? If we increase the PO later on, we block this immediately, but if we decrease, that means if we lower down the value of the volume, we just wait for the complete approval of this PO before we decrease also the blocked value in the contract. Means if someone says no, yeah, and we have to go back to the original version, we still have the original volume or amount in the contract blocked. So we're using ERP data as well as data from our SRM SAP system, but I come to this point later on. And we have international branches which working not in euros, which working in different currencies around the world. That means we have to handle also foreign currencies in this whole process. So this is an example how we build it. So we have always a base contract. In this case, it's a value contract with zeros. Yeah? And you can see here we have 3 different levels, possible levels. You can assign different vendors to the different levels. And you can create also the second level. If you, for example, in this case, we have a base contract with 10,000 euro. If you now create subcontracts, here with 5,000 euros, here with 3,000, in the point of creating these subcontracts, yeah, this value gets blocked in the base contract immediately. So that means if you try to create, in this case, another subcontract with 3,000 euros, for example, it will not be possible because the amount is completely used for the other ones. So the calculation model is bottom-up as well as top-down. Yeah? So you can see here, if you have assigned 3,000 euro to the subcontract, you can use this 3,000 value in the level down. Yeah? And if the level, and if you have used your complete amount or your complete value in this area, you will have not a chance to create another contract or create a PO. For example, in this one, in the lowest area, in the lowest level, we have a value of 500. If you try to place a PO with 550, it will not work. Yeah? Sure.
Base contract figure is wrong.
Yeah.
Can be adjusted, which would then allow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you can adjust it. You can hire up. Yeah, and then it's possible to do everything again. Yeah, you can also decrease, but then it goes checked during the whole hierarchy if it maybe breaks the model or if it's broken. Okay, and the bottom. Just define for IT work, we have 10,000 person days, yeah, and we want to split off this only to different selected vendors, but we don't want to place, or we don't know it in time of creation of the project, how many volume or value is going to which vendor. So in this case, you can just create this subcontract, and leave the value or the volume blank, yeah, and in this case, it checks always the whole hierarchy. Yeah? So this is another advantage of this flexible solution. You are not forced, yeah, to create or to put in value if you don't know the value in time of creation of the subcontract. Okay, so I think from the rest it's quite clear. You can place orders against the different hierarchy levels. It's not allowed to place it against the basis contract because this is it's not allowed in our scenario. Yeah, from a technical perspective, it should not a problem, but in our scenario, the requirement was it's not permitted. And yeah, well, and the whole thing is we have a reporting about it. On demand. That means today it's possible to say, okay, this base contract has a release value of 8,000 euros. And if you want to look into the details, we have a release value of this subcontract of 2,000. This is, today it's possible to do it by one click from the system. Issue handling, so we have special things we have to cover in the solution. I already mentioned the approval process. So normally for us in the KfW group, we have a quite complex approval scenario, which is more or less 10. Yeah, it's the highest thing I see, and it's 10. Provided within the core system, we were not successful. So we have moved it to a BI solution on top because the information were too big, so the runtime and the performance was really, really bad. We have a report that checks immediately if a contract gets exceeded, and we send out notifications to our buyers, to our lead buyers, which are responsible for the commodity group. And we have implemented an early warning system. Yeah? That means if you can define some thresholds for the different contracts, and if the usage is exceeding the threshold, then the responsible buyer gets an upfront information. Please look in your contract. Or if we have bigger POs, so we have, or we're trying to build historical data now. That means, okay, in one quarter we have roughly a usage of such a volume or such an amount, and if we have another quarter, where we are exceeding this, then the buyers gets an early warning. Say, okay, please look into this scenario. It's maybe it's a fault, or please have a look if everything is all right. So it's more a preactive early warning system, which helps our buyers to manage their contracts better. So how we have done it? We have used some kind of agile software development approach. Yeah, it's the KfW group software development process using some parts of agile development. It's not complete agile. Yeah, we are doing some concept work out of the agile. It's the classical project process, but within these development cycle, we are using the agile approach. And also our partner, Absolut, have really nice solutions in that area to support work agile and using the advantages of the agile development method. Yeah? The key here is clear. We have put together functional and IT folks, yeah, that we are able to test the increments